Welcome again to the Purposes of God. I am your host, Doug Krieger of the Tribulation Network. This is video number 20 in this special 29 video presentation on major prophetical themes, especially with regards to divine, we believe, measurement. Again, this is video number 20. In video number 20, we are going to be discussing the measurements of the Ark of the Covenant and the Temple of Solomon. This is part 1 of this particular series. This is video number 20. The Ark of the Covenant. The measurements of the Ark of the Covenant are at the core of the Israelitish sacerdotal rites. The Tent of Meeting, or testimony, borne by the Israelites and was established within the holiest of all. The ark was housed in the tabernacle in the wilderness, and thence at Shiloh, and then at the tabernacle of David, and then in the Solomonic temple. Without the sacred cubit, the Ark of the Covenant remains an undefiled mystery of antiquity. The sacred cubit was the basis of the ark's design. Quoting from Exodus 25:10, 2 cubits and a half shall be the length thereof, and a cubit and a half the breadth thereof, and a cubit and a half the height thereof, in rectangular shape. Note, the description of the construction of the ark ends in Exodus 25:20, where it says, "And the cherubims shall stretch forth their wings on high, covering the mercy seat with their wings, and their faces shall look one to another. Toward the mercy seat shall the faces of the cherubims be." The arrangements for the Ark of the Covenant. We have several maps here. The first one below, the color one, shows the Ark of the Covenant in the wilderness, in the tabernacle in the wilderness. Then you have the placement of the Ark of the Covenant as the mercy seat in the Holy of Holies in the illustration above this. Atop the Ark of the Covenant was the mercy seat. These two measurements are inseparable. That is, the mercy seat measurements and the Ark of the Covenant measurements, 2 measurements in one. He took the testimony and put it into the ark, inserted the poles through the rings of the ark, and put the mercy seat on top of the ark. Exodus 40 in verse 21. Now we have a very elaborate picture here of the layout of Solomon's Temple Mount temple. The tent of meeting, or testimony, or tabernacle, and ultimately the temple are tripartite, that is, in 3 parts. The outer court, wherein is the altar of sacrifice, and the bronze basin were located. The holy place, the enclosed area, wherein is the table of showbread, the golden lampstand or menorah, and the altar of incense. And then the third place, the holiest of all, or holy of holies, the innermost sanctuary, wherein are the 2 cherubim atop the mercy seat, atop the Ark of the Covenant, housing the tablets of the testimony. And aside are Aaron's rod that budded, and the golden pot of manna, illuminated by the Shekinah glory. Again, the sacred cubit in Solomon's temple, and the layout of Solomon's temple by Ling Rittmeyer here is outstanding. Those are cubit measurements. Our cubit measurements are, of course, based on the sacred cubit of 25.20. So those measurements are given around Solomon's temple. The perimeter of the temple area, 500 cubits per side. Therefore, 500 times 4 is equal to 2,000 cubits. That is the perimeter of the temple area. Now when you take that perimeter of 2,000 cubits and multiply it by a sacred cubit of 2520, it will equal 5,040. 5,040 inches divided by 2 will equal 2520, or the fractal 2520 cubits. The cubit measurements of the court area of the Temple Mount, the actual temple with altar and basin, are equal to 135 cubits each, west and east sides, and 187 cubits north and south side areas, which will equal, that is, if you were to square the area, 135 times 187 will give you precisely 2,520 square cubits, which again is equal to our sacred cubit fractal measurement of 25.20 inches. Now note, 2 each, 52 cubit differences of each pair, that is 2 sets of 187 minus 135 is equal to 52. Therefore, 2 sets, or 52, or 2 sets of 520, or 2520. Please look at these figures carefully again to see that distinction, wherein you receive the 2520 again, even in the numbers of 187 minus 135, giving you 52. Therefore, 2 sets, or 52, or 2, and then sets, and then 520, will give you 2520. Here is Solomon's temple as a cutaway, and its measurements. Notice that in the front it's 35 cubits, and 18 cubits for the pillars in addition. It measures 30 cubits at its highest point. It is extended 60 cubits from the vestibule to the Holy of Holies, and 20 cubits wide. Please take careful note of these measurements. Then David gave to Solomon his son the pattern of the porch of the temple, and of the houses thereof, and of the treasuries thereof, and of the upper rooms thereof, and of the inner chambers thereof, and of the place of the ark cover, and the pattern of all that he had by the Spirit, for the courts of the house of the Lord, and for all the chambers round about, for the treasuries of the house of God, and for the treasuries of the hallowed things. 1 Chronicles 28, verses 11 and 12, Jewish translation. And the vestibule that was in front of the sanctuary was 20 cubits long across the width of the house, and the height was 120 cubits. This is found in 2 Chronicles 3:4. Therefore, you see this rendering of Solomon's temple, that the vestibule was quite high, the porch area there. The height of the vestibule in front of the sanctuary at 120 cubits would have equaled 120 times 25.20, or 3,024 inches, which is the perimeter in feet of the Great Pyramid, or 3,024 inches divided by 12 inches will equal 252 feet, or the sacred cubits measurement, that is, 252 cubits, or 252 divided by 2520 cubits, similar to Ezekiel's temple in height. In 1 Kings 6:3, the vestibule in front of the sanctuary height was 20 cubits, and the total square cubits of Solomon's temple sanctuary would be 29,400, and 29,400 divided by 2520 is equal to 1166.66666. Here you have two amazing numbers, 11 and 666, which demonstrates the authority of the divine over Satan, over the 11th horn, and fallen man, 666, the number of a man. God's workmanship versus Satan's, whereas 2 Chronicles 3:4, the sacred cubit with the other gates, a marvelous allocation of the sacred cubit. Now the layout of Solomon's temple, again with some modifications which I've entered into to bring to highlight some of the significant measurements within Solomon's temple. In particularly, look at the back wall area where you have 133.33 cubits from the west wall to the actual Ark of the Covenant itself. Likewise, the 100-cubit sanctuary area that I've delineated there, and above the 116.67 cubit area. The Ark of the Covenant is at the center of Solomon's temple, in that it is positioned as follows. From the western wall to the midst of the mercy seat atop the Ark of the Covenant, you have 133.33 cubits. From the temple court west wall to the mercy seat, and so forth, a distance of 33.33 cubits, with 11 cubits behind the temple. Most interesting indeed. The victory over Antichrist in the triumph of the temple's measurements. The 11 cubits behind the temple are, in essence, placed behind the holiest of all for the specific purpose to declare the victory of God's presence on earth through his perfect salvation in Christ, whose additional 22.33 cubits extends the court a distance of 33.33. Messiah was cut off 4 days past the close of the 69th week of Daniel's prophecy in Daniel chapter 9 verses 24 through 27. His blood was sprinkled upon the mercy seat. Hebrews chapters 9 through 11. By vanishing the 11, he adds the perfect 33.33 to his number and brings us into the presence of the Almighty. Indeed, Jesus was 33 years of age when he was crucified. And if you would, the .33 could quite possibly stand for the 3 months and the 3 days of April. That would make it 33.33. The court's 135 divided by 2 is equal to 67.5 divided by 2 is equal to 33.75 of the 33, which also bears witness to his number. Now, this author does not subscribe to Dutch archaeologist Leen Reemeyer's use of the royal cubit of 20.67 inches, the temple cubit, apparently used in several nearby tombs. Indeed, King Solomon was altogether careful to ascribe the sacred cubit's 25.20-inch length throughout his architectural building endeavors. Only the 25.20-inch sacred cubit can afford these astounding and astonishing conclusions of the divine intervention into his holy temple. We, however, applaud the otherwise outstanding conclusions derived from Reemeyer's superlative research, also the research of that of Lambert Dolphin, Asher Kaufman, and of course the Temple Institute in Jerusalem. Again, this concludes video number 20, and now we're moving on to video number 21. Again, I'm your host, Doug Krieger of the Tribulation Network. Thank you for viewing and listening. God bless.